Hi there. Welcome on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve, and I'll be your guide. Well, folks, I hope everyone's having a great, nearly Christmas season. It's getting, obviously, it's already cold out in many parts of the country, in the US anyway. So today, folks, let's talk a little bit about what self abandonment looks like in an organization or what it can look like. So we can better understand what we're seeing, so we can kind of have an approach that helps to uplift our team. So when we're talking about self-abandonment in an organization, we're really talking about what it looks like, uh, how we perceive it. So it might be you're another team member, it might be, or any member of the team. You might be the leader of the organization or one of the department leads, it doesn't matter. But self abandonment isn't necessarily causal because of the organization, but it can manifest in the organization. So, let's start with an individual. An individual has a personal life and they have personal relationships, whether that be, their significant other, their family, their children, and so on, into the community, maybe even part of the civic organizations, their church, all these things that they're dealing with. And the tough part about our challenge of being human is that we pull along with us, kind of like Santa Claus, but always not in a positive and healthy way. We pull along other people's problems. We pull along other people's hardships. We pull along our own hardships and troubles and struggles, right? And it can weight us down. And so what ends up happening is when does the rubber meet the road? Well, when people have to show up at work and do their job, right? It doesn't matter where you are in the organization. You could be the CEO, you could be the brand new person in the organization, first job you've ever had. Doesn't matter. You're bringing that your struggle and strife with you. It's in there, whether you acknowledge it openly or whether you're dealing with it in an open and honest way or, off site in your own personal life. It's there. Now you bring that into your organization. Now imagine like a tire spoke, everything's coming to the hub, and that hub is your organization that you work in for or that you own or direct. And now you have people coming in there. And what happens is because they're not potentially dealing with some of these personal other things outside of work, that now everybody's kind of on an island together, right? Supposed to be in concert and cooperation, kind of synergized to help our customers and all of that. But the undertow and the swift river running underneath all of that is that people have distractions in their mind and in their heart, right? And and so a lot of times people come to work to escape their actual troubles, but they don't really leave their troubles. Or they don't really, they're not really necessarily resolving all of those. I'm not saying, paint with too broad of a brush. People are, but you're still dealing with things at different stages, right? Could be your own, could be your own health, could be a myriad of things. And then, of course, we know, things happen day to day that we are responding to, reacting to, and trying to overcome. So there's a lot of moving parts going on here. So when we're talking about self-abandonment, we're really not, we're not bringing this up as a pointing a finger, looking down from some atop some hill somewhere, going, "Oh, you're abandoning yourself." No, it's insidious. Because what happens is because people become overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed to deal with their own stuff, right, outside of their organization. And then when they come in back to the organization, right, then you can have, and this can be a whack-a-mole scenario. It could be, the odd team members on Mondays, the even team members on Tuesday, and so on and so forth. And you could have this ripple effect, this wave. It may not always be the same person every day that's struggling and feeling, kind of abandoning their own ability to deal with their own issues, and it manifests then as apathy and malaise and maybe a little carelessness and maybe unsafe acts or just omission of doing things the appropriate way. which shows up in quality. And as a leader, similarly, right? You only have to take your eye off the ball for a second. That's why I'm often amazed when leaders are away. If they don't have a very well organized and succinct communication plan, and know everybody's painting by the numbers, if it isn't pretty well organized, you're kind of setting your team up for failure, because some of this stuff will burble up um, if you're not coaching, directing, guiding, and overcoming some of these things as they occur. Because, like it or not, whether you signed up for it or not, if you're a leader in an organization, you're also a bridge builder, a counselor, a mentor, a coach, a teacher, right? And the student, always switching hats depending on the situation. Always learning, should always be learning and always be growing. But we don't know it all. And so some of this is experiential. And so if you're a junior in, say a department manager, but everybody that works for you is, a generation or two further along in their career than you are, right? They probably have more management experience raising their children than you do as a manager in that particular arena. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that you're going to have to pedal a little faster, like that duck. Your little your little flippers need to be paddling pretty fast, because you're going to have to deal with human beings with evolved senses of awareness and potentially complex interactions and situations, right? That you may have not even have seen yet. So at every stage, it's so easy, even for that, a junior leader, to be overrun and then be overwhelmed. And if they feel self-conscious that they aren't seeking coaching and mentoring from their their boss and their leadership and so forth up the line, if they're not proactively getting advice and being engaged in that, being humble enough to take on that tact, they can be quickly overwhelmed, and you quickly see where some of this stuff can actually become toxic if they don't deal with it in the appropriate ways. Because it's quite frankly easier for some of them to just fire somebody than it is for them to actually mentor, coach, and counsel team members back to health and to rejuvenate the organization. This is a reflection of self-abandonment in an organization. You've abandoned your own ability to handle a problem, so therefore your reflex, and because it's an out for you, because you're overwhelmed by it and you don't have the capability, or you don't have the experience. So therefore, what happens? The system is giving you an out. And then now it becomes a matter of always this constant organizational shifting of finger pointing and all this stuff. And this is where these toxic weeds begin to take root and start to negatively affect an organization. So self-abandonment may be internal. It may be kind of a checking out or a flip of a switch, but how it manifests is really apathy, malaise, and lack of taking on the difficult things, or potentially projecting or rerouting these problems to other things. You see people move to different departments and all this kind of thing, right? A little shakeup. Well, it's not bad to have a shakeup for experience and to get people exposure and that sort of thing, but it should never be done as a reflex to dealing with issues that you have going on in your organization. Always better to deal with those head on, be succinct, be real, be authentic, be genuine, right? And this is why it's super important that leaders show that desire and intent and care for the team, right? You could think of it like the mother duck and the ducklings sort of thing, right? You need to get them across the river safely. And you can't have the ducks, battling each other in the middle of the river. That's not going to work well. So, because the stream's always going to be carrying them down otherwise, and they're going to get lost on the journey. And you don't want to lose your little ducklings on your journey. Okay. So, you also see this manifest in other ways. People calling out for work, people maybe not taking good care of themselves, right? So, it might be that the work itself is the tipping point. So they might have things going on in their personal life, but the work itself now becomes a pressure point because now they're saying, oh, well, I don't have time to deal with my issues. Well, so they call out, or maybe they're sick, take time off. And, obviously these are all things that people can do, but why is it occurring? If it's occurring a lot, then you really have to start looking into it because it could be they're struggling with some things. And, it's good to have empathy because we can work with our team. We can, grow through troubles. It's good to identify and have that empathy and so forth. But if you aren't communicative and you aren't an engaged leader, then you're more apt to what? Reflex to, well, they're not here, they're out. You have to be able to develop your team. And if you're not developing your team, guess what? That's self abandonment. You've abandoned your ability to grow, to lead, to take on a caring responsibility over your team, right? Over the organization itself. And who are you really letting down? Who are we all letting down when we allow our self abandonment to creep in and to cause some of these things? We are letting the customers down. And we might be thinking, well, it's the organizational end user. I'm not going to stay in this job very long anyway, whatever the, reflexive thought is in the moment for somebody who's a little perturbed. Well, guess what? It's not just affecting them, it's affecting all the way to the local economy, all the customers in your community. It's affecting anybody that talk to, and interact with at all. Because, like it or not, we're all connected. So the self abandonment, right? Another is very difficult. It has a difficult impact when it is allowed to manifest and have these other uh, effects, right? So, but self abandonment too is another difficult thing individually is that people start to disassociate from the group, right? So you think of a retiree. Retiree might go, "Oh, I can't wait till I retire," and all these things, right? Well, what you find is, yeah, you might be good for like a year or something like that. But after a while, you're going to get bored. And so what do you see? They get back involved in the community to, to keep that connection up because that connection is the lifeblood of all of us. We have to be connected to each other. As a species, we're designed to be a social, interactive species. But when people start to pull themselves away and kind of be an island unto themselves, there's nothing illegal, there's nothing immoral about it, but uh, they're not going to grow. They're not going to they're not going to feel included. And they're more apt to pull away more and more and more. And that's, how that self abandonment can happen even outside of the organization, even after somebody's career is over. So it's super important that we look for ways to stay engaged, stay social, stay impactful in what we're doing and how we're interacting. Because we can still have good to bring to the world, even if you're not at work. If it's just in your personal life, you're still bringing value, right? So, just wanted to talk a little bit today about self abandonment in organizations, just some subtle ways that it can show up. This obfuscation of responsibility and accountability and taking charge of the, as you could say, the good health of the team in the organization, keeping that communication and engagement high. Those are ways that we can overcome it by staying engaged, getting people to come up with ideas and giving them projects and things that they're interested in or that they're skills. Because you would find that the best way to overcome a lot of this is to get people into helping you solve the problems that they're most adept at solving. Not everybody is wired to solve the same problem. The same person that may be helping you design a new part, an engineer, that sort of a individual, is maybe not the same person who's going to be designing your conference room or decorating your building or repairing some things or whatever, right? Different strokes for different folks, different avenues of skills that go even beyond the job that they do. If you've got extra things going on like that, offer that up to your team because you might find that they are really interested. Hey, I really love to do these particular things. I'd love to take this thing on. Oh, yeah, great. So it's often good to understand what other skills, knowledge, skills, and abilities beyond the role that you've hired your team members for that they have in their toolkit so that not only you can utilize those, but you can reward them for that and also keeps them engaged. And it might be a group of individuals working on a project, self-help projects and that sort of thing. So when you contract everything outside your organization, right? It's not always the best thing. Some things maybe, but not everything. Some things you have skills right under your nose, people who can handle solving some of the problems right under your nose. And don't be afraid to, look around to see who you have and some of the gifts and talents that they bring to the table. It might be that, you've got handful of people who, maybe play in a band, on their off time, here and there, and you've got a Christmas party or a party or some kind of gathering, and you need somebody to play music for this thing. Well, guess what? You got them right there. you know. So anyway, tap in. It's very important we tap the untapped potential that we have within our connections, not only in our own lives but also in organizations. And when we do that, that's another way we're protecting love. So, just want to talk a little bit today about self abandonment and how that may manifest in organizations, and just some subtle ways that we can overcome that. Make sure that we're consciously aware of and present to push that good domino 3 to 5 times a day or more to uplift, motivate, inspire, and encourage other people. And when we do that, not only are we transforming culture and their lives, but we're also transforming our own lives and we're growing. And then that energy becomes reciprocal. And then you find that culture starts to improve and you'll start to see the dynamics within your organization and your very own life change as well. All right, folks, hit like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.